We are going to keep on going with another company that works with AI. And it's a very young company coming from Switzerland. They're calling Rimon Technologies from Switzerland. And they want to transform expert knowledge into clear work instruction with the help of AI. We're not so far away from the robot thing we just said. And I'm super happy to welcome him here on stage. It's Michael Blickensdorfer and Pim Massig. Please share your questions via Slido that we can go back into the discussion. Enjoy, guys.
Thank you so much.
You're just alone. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, it's only me today. I'm sorry. My colleague has to hold the stand, the booth. But my pleasure. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Blickensdorfer. I'm the co-founder of Rimon Technologies. We're a Swiss-based company, and what we do is we capture the expertise of long-term employees. But why do we do that? So there are a couple of different challenges we're facing in manufacturing. On the job market, it's the high turnover rates, especially in the US, but also here in Europe, where it's hard to find good qualified people to operate machines, to maintain them, to repair them if they're not working. And people tend to leave the jobs more frequently and change them. On the training and onboarding side, what we're still doing today is that they're just job shedding. So it takes a long time, 6 up to 12 months or even longer, to onboard people that they become an expert in their field. That means there's a high risk of losing that invested time into a new employee when they leave after 2 years or 3 years, which is today the standard. On the other side, when it comes to creating instructions, documentation, it's quite static. There are manuals out there with hundreds of pages, and most of them are not even up to date. So the people are not reading those manuals anymore. And on the other hand, the knowledge is tied to a few key individuals who have their expertise gained over 20, 30 years. And if they leave, or if they're even on vacation and not there, then knowledge is also available to the others. And then there is the demographic change. That means in the next 5 to 10 years, a lot of these experts, they are leaving the company. They go into retirement. So we always tell the story of Walter. Walter is that guy in the company that has worked for over 20, 30 years in the company and is the expert himself. He's the handyman that helps Jonas, so a new junior who joined the company, whenever something is wrong with the machine, whenever he has a question, he's the guy that runs the production or keeps the production running. And we say it's not only a story. Every company has a Walter. Maybe the name is different. Might be Urs or Beat or John or whoever. But what all companies have in common is that when Walter is retiring, also their knowledge is going to retirement. And this is where we step in. So we created Digital Walter, which is a knowledge capturing system based on a body camera. That means the expert himself can execute on the job and simultaneously document with that body cam what they do. That means it's very intuitive. It's not an additional process to the daily routines they have. They can basically do it on the job. So how does it work? Walter, in that case, starts the process, wears that body camera, and can describe in his own language what they do. So they can do it either in German, they can do it in English, they can do it in Spanish. So there is no language barrier on that. It's just about explaining what they do, as they would to a junior or an apprentice that has recently started in the company. What we do next with the video, so that recording is a 360 degrees recording. They don't have to worry about if this is in the frame or not. They can fully focus themselves on the process. We take the recording, we process it, and we automatically transcribe it into written language. That means that video becomes searchable. We can translate it into different languages, but we can also make it searchable and cut it into different sections. So when I, as a junior, have a particular question to just one specific step, I can use Digital Walter to get me to that exact point in the video, spot on, without losing time watching the whole video or looking through documentation as I used to do before. There are different use cases where this can be applied either internally or externally, so a customer-facing adoption. So one specific company we work with in Switzerland is a window manufacturer that has one big challenge. They have a lot of different people from different nations with a lot of language barriers, and most of the processes are not documented at all. What we did with them is that they started digitizing each and every machine they're using regarding the processes they are working on. That meant nowadays, if there is a problem, a downtime with the machine, the operator himself can use Walter to get the error, to understand what they do, and then they can fix it. So let's listen to David. He is the process supervisor who has just introduced Walter to that company.
Erstmal herzlich willkommen bei Huber Fenster. Wir sind hier im Showroom von Huber Fenster, ein Anbieter im Bereich Fensterbau, Hebe-Schiebetüren und Hauseingangstüren. Der Walter unterstützt uns natürlich sehr stark in puncto des Themas Knowledge Capturing. Das heißt eben, dass wir dieses Expertenwissen eben perfekt aufzeichnen können, festhalten können digital und vor allem das ganz Wichtigste aus meiner persönlichen Sinne, auf den Punkt abrufen können.
I'm Peter, I'm a CNC machinist. My job is to mill the parts, quality check them, make sure that everything is according to the plan, and leave our station in the best way as it's possible. Things are going faster definitely going faster because you don't have to call each and every one, hey, what can the problem be? For example, I had an electrical failure. I didn't know what to do. I just had to change a small switch, search it, and Walter gave me the data, what I have to look for. And so that's how I could execute the switch change.
Wir haben insgesamt 21 Nationen, die bei uns arbeiten. Und es unterstützt uns natürlich der Walter auch ganz konkret mit dieser Herausforderung. Frag doch mal deinen neuen Kollegen, den Walter. Und der Walter, schauen wir, ob dir helfen kann. Wenn nicht, kommst du nochmal zu uns oder zu mir und wir reden nochmal drüber. Also wir lassen niemanden alleine mit den Aufgaben. Wir schulen immer wieder. Das werden wir auch weiterhin so beibehalten. Aber der Walter ist eine ganz starke Unterstützung, weil man merkt tatsächlich auch im Alltag, wie viele Bereiche, wie viele zweite Nachfrage, dritte Nachfrage, vierte sich man dadurch sparen kann. Das ist unglaublich schön und mega schön, wie effizient das Ganze uns mittlerweile abläuft und bei uns hier in der Firma.
You are less exhausted at the end of the day, so thumbs up.
So as Peter said, he's less exhausted because he can focus on the real work without having to go after all these problems and looking for solutions by asking around. He can just use Walter to get his machine fixed and up and running again. So what kind of expertise are we capturing? In the case of Huber Fenster, the knowledge is captured by the experts themselves. What you can see here, that's a training instructor from the machine company that delivered the new machine to the company itself. What they did is that the whole training session they had for one day, they recorded over 40 videos, so they recorded the whole session with the instructor to capture his expertise. So after the training, they can still look up some information that they received during that training. But we also added further information, like recordings from normal smartphones, as well as chat logs they had with another Italian machine company over the past 5 years, solving different problems. So that meant the next time one error came up, they could just ask Walter, and Walter could refer to the exact point where this error already was solved 2-3 years ago. And it's used in everyday work. So here's a very easy example how an operator can access that information. As you can see, the QR code is right attached at the machine, so where the knowledge is needed. You scan it, you can open it up on any device, so everything is web-based. There's no additional app installation required. And then you can just interact in any language you want with Walter. So as soon as I ask that question, Walter goes through all the videos and documents that are behind that QR code. And if he finds the answer, he can directly respond and even get you to the right direct point in the video. That means not only documentation is much more faster and easier, but also retrieving information, which usually takes many minutes and stresses you out at the end of the day.
Mit dem linken Schalter.
But we're not only doing that. So in the case of a Swiss train manufacturer in Salt Lake City in the US, what we did with them is that we completely reorganized their documentation procedures. So what they did before is that they had a specialized person doing the documentation versus the expert that is experienced in the execution. So that documentation person went along with the expert, took notes, took pictures, and it took many business days until they had a text-based work instruction. What did that mean? So in that case, it took long to create a documentation, but on the other hand, in the end, you got a piece of paper that nobody really would read or understand. We actually compared these two different approaches, and it was highly interesting to see how much more understandable the visual generated work instructions are compared to a traditional created work instruction. And as we all know, we're in the age of video. The new generation looks or watches tutorials on YouTube, on TikTok. So they're more used to catch information visually than reading texts. On the service side, what we did with LNS is that they have their own customer portal where all the customers that are using their bar feeders can look up information on the documentation that they have. So in case if you have a bar feeder of them, try it out on their customer portal. What you can do is you can retrieve information. They call it LNS, but behind is Walter actually doing the magic. And that means if you have a support question, you don't have to wait until business hours. You can use it anytime and access it in your own language. So we have people using it from the Asian region, from the US, or even from Europe. At Sater Bachmann, which is a precision gear manufacturer in Switzerland, we're using it in a variety of different fields. So one of the biggest challenges was the peripheral equipment that they are using to measuring those gears. Because they're not used often, and there are only a few experts who know how to handle that equipment. So what we did with them is we just captured these processes, how to measure, and quality check all these gears. On the other hand, we're working with the apprenticeship department, so the next generation can already leverage that AI in learning and understanding and becoming an expert in their field. But we can also take it a step further. So even software is sometimes hard to handle. Like ERP systems, you might have a change, a migration. There's lots of training involved in teaching the people how to use and how to interact with the software. So we can not only process body camera footage, but also screen recordings. And they can also be fed into Walter and help your office employees to get or to use the software much faster. So how do we support? We support on the documentation side by making it very easy and on the job. We can interact in all different languages. You can even use voice interaction if you want to. And we can also assess the data, because we can track each conversation you're using or where you're using Walter. So if Walter doesn't have an answer because nothing is documented, that's what we call a knowledge gap. And that means there is a knowledge gap that needs to be filled either by video or by adopting the documentation itself. What we say is we digitize 20 years of knowledge in just 1 week by reducing also the cost of quality, that the teams get the job done and to become more productive. And if you want to see Walter live, hands-on, just visit us. We are right over in Hall 6 at our booth, F18. In case you want to book an appointment, just feel free to scan the QR code or get in touch with me afterwards. Thank you so much.
Awesome. That's a good one. Probably, I thought about whether it's a fun question or not, but probably it is because you're from Switzerland. Yeah.
For sure.
So what about strong dialects and accent? No, no, sorry for that. I had a guy from southern Germany today on stage, and we were talking about the accents in Germany. So I mean, you are used to it. So what about that? Yeah.
Yes, accents. That's a very often asked question, and even for me as a Swiss person, there are some regions in Switzerland where it's hard for me to understand these people if they have a very strong accent. So for sure, Walter can understand Swiss German. He can deal with different accents, but the stronger they are, the less accurate he might be. The thing is, once I make that transcription from the video, I can adjust it afterwards. So if there is, for example, a misspelling or just one word wrong, you can always correct that in hindsight. And even if it's just a small thing, it's not that difficult. Although we have some processes in the pipeline that make sure to understand the context of the whole video, the instructions, and they can already automatically redact some specific parts if they're not too far off.
Very good. So we have another one, and I really love that the audience is so interactive. Where do you store the videos and other data? I mean,
yes, very important question. As we are a Swiss company, and we do work with a lot of Swiss manufacturers, that's a very important topic for them because that's critical data, that's internal knowledge that you don't want to share with everyone else, right? So our data is hosted and running on Microsoft Azure Switzerland. We are using that infrastructure because they have already a high standard of security on the very basic levels. Beyond that, what we can do is we can also integrate external storages. So if you're on the Microsoft Azure cloud already, there are potential opportunities to redirect that storage to the storage of your desire.
I mean, after we ask for the dialects, probably this one is allowed too, and then I have a few more questions. Does Walter come in different personalities?
Yes.
So the angry Walter. Yeah, no.
We're constantly thinking about how could we bring Walter to the next level, that he gets angry at some point if you're asking the same question or all the time. So Walter can be adopted for sure. Like as you saw, there is a different implementation for LNS where they're using it for the customer-facing part. So if there are specific requests on how should Walter answer or how should he be adopted in his tone, that's something that we can do individually depending on what you're providing. The good thing is Walter, so the QR code that you get brings you actually to an own isolated version of Walter, because Walter has only that context that is behind that QR code. So if you have multiple QR codes per machine, Walter has only restricted access to different data, so videos and documents. That also means Walter can, or you can actually have multiple versions of Walter across your organization.
Very good. So what I was thinking about, we had the startup Lumnio. I don't know whether you know them. They were doing the VR glasses.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be a useful extension of your offer? Because I mean, I saw where the person goes to the QR code and scans it. Yeah. This basically is a very old solution that already exists, but now we have AI to interact. In the past it was just a video. Nowadays it's interaction. But what about if I already have the glasses and the interaction takes place? Is that something for the future?
Yes, absolutely. So as you saw, Walter runs in a web browser. So wherever you can run a web browser that supports video, especially now with the smart glasses that are coming up that we see from Meta, there is a huge potential also leveraging that platform. And because as we are platform agnostic, we are not tied to a specific hardware, we can run it basically everywhere, and where in the end the operator feels the most comfortable using it. So the smartphone is something they most likely have it. A glass, that's something that might be an organizational decision. In some cases, they have some central terminals on the shop floor where they can access that in case they can't access their own smartphone. So yeah, absolutely, we can be compatible with a huge variety of different platforms.
Awesome. Let's get to probably a rare question, but I asked it to Lumnia as well, because I really like this systems, because it's really something I'm actually, as a consultant, sometimes being annoyed of, that training isn't getting better. And this is really, I love it, because it's not only like creating dumb employees, it's like educating employees and training them in a very fast and efficient way. So what is your future perspective on that? And if it comes to process optimization, because Walter is the old guy in the background that delivers the ones like we did it all the time before. You heard that sentence probably in Switzerland as many times as I heard it in Germany. So are you improving the process on the go? Because AI will recognize it, right? If the process is not well.
Yeah, there are multiple examples. So let me begin with one. When we went for a demo recording on site, we just recorded one very specific process, and we had a couple of guys just watching over, so a couple of Walters. And it was very interesting to see their reaction, because when they saw the video of one Walter doing that, they were like, oh, I never did it this way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I can also do it this way. That's more efficient than it used to be before. So actually, in that case, with the video, with the visual information, it becomes much more visible how the process can be also improved in terms of making it more efficient, or using that and that trick to screw something or whatever. So that's one way how to improve on a rolling basis the efficiency inside the organization. On the other hand, what we also had one time, there was a customer uploading all his process document to Walter, and they were asking a specific question on the ISO certification process. And Walter answered with 3 different sources, 3 different documents, explaining the same process but differently. So what they saw is that they have obviously inconsistency in their own data.
Very good, very good.
And that meant they could adapt that on the go, that they probably would have never found out, because it's not likely that somebody gets 2 or 3 documents at the same time and would see that error in those documents. So that's one thing, but on the long term, what we are working on is not only using Walter when the technician needs to retrieve knowledge, but also already proactively. So when you're walking to the machine, if there's a downtime, if there's an error, you don't know exactly how to handle it, so that the camera or the Walter becomes visible and is able to see what the technician is doing, or the production operator, and to help him proactively before even executing something.
Very good, very good. So there's a last one from the audience. I can't answer it, so I hand it over to you.
Yes.
Do you offer different chatbot models, such as LLM or simpler bots?
I hope I got it right. So Walter is already a structure of different models or different bots. There's a whole data process, but in terms of there's like a specific need that might need to be implemented to meet that requirement, there could be an option that Walter can be added by another large language model. What we did, for example, in the case of LNS, they're still using their own agent, their own chatbot, but they integrated Walter into that environment. So in any case, a person is asking for a technical question, that question gets redirected to Walter. Walter creates the answer and feeds it back into their own chatbot. So that's a possible way how to integrate Walter in your existing agent environment.
Very good. So I liked it very much, Michael. Thank you so much for being our guest today. I think it will solve a few of the problems we have right now, and so this is a good step. So big applause for you again. Good luck with your solution. We will see you in the startup area. Big applause, ladies and gentlemen.